Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast. My name is Scott Howell, your fearless host and leader, insurance agency owner and insurance evangelist for I Protect Insurance and Financial Services based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Saraland, Alabama, a parade first-team All-American, Rivals 5-star recruit. He is a fantastic insurance agent and my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and welcome the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
I'm great, Scott. How are you today?
I am doing better than I have ever done in my whole entire life. Let me tell everybody something before we get started today. I'm very grateful today. I'm very humble today. I'm very blessed today. I feel, you know those days you wake up sometimes, Bradley, and you just feel humbled and grateful for the life that you have?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm there this morning.
Okay.
And I'm not emotional, which is good for you because I know when I get emotional, Bradley doesn't know what to do with me.
Yeah, that's happened.
Guys, very grateful this morning. I had a lot of stories to tell this morning about things that have happened to me in Mobile the last few days, but you know, we've got a hard stop today, and I want to go ahead and bring our guest on today. But before we do, I just want to tell everybody out there that listens to this podcast how much Bradley and I appreciate that. It means a lot to us. This is our legacy. We will not stop till we get to 5,000 episodes. When Bradley goes to work here in a month or two as a pixie dust spreader on a tilt-a-whirl at the Coleman County Fairgrounds, we're still going to do the podcast. Yep. We're still going to do the podcast. So blessed and humbled and honored that all of you guys would listen to it. And we love all of you. And if we can ever do anything for you, let us know. But guys, we got a great podcast today. Our mission here is to put out information every week for you guys to help you. We don't care what it is, hiring, firing, social media, whatever it may be. We want to put that information out there for you and help you out. Today, guys, we have a very special guest. He comes to us by way of Mr. Ryan Hanley. If anybody in the insurance industry, especially in the independent channel, doesn't know who Ryan Hanley is, I don't know what to tell you to do. But Ryan kind of mentioned this guy to us, and it was somebody that we wanted to bring on the podcast because anytime we find somebody that has an expertise in something that we know can help you guys, and I know today we're going to talk about managing employees, helping them, loving them up, taking people and making sure that we have the kind of employees and we treat them the way that they ought to be treated and need to be treated and think out of the box on how we can help them. This guy can do that. He is a graduate of St. Joseph's College. He began his insurance career in 2003. He is the agency principal at Ethos Insurance and Risk Management. And he's concentrated on risk management and life insurance for business owners. He is in Valparaiso, Indiana, and he is married to the beautiful Devin. They have 3 babies, Banks, Port, and Liam. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to go ahead and be honored to introduce to you the other incomparable Mr. Ben Zimmer. How are you, Ben?
I'm doing great today. How are you guys?
Man, I am fantastic. Just to give everybody some context, we are not in our podcast studio right now. We're in a conference room. And so when I came in, everybody's like, look, Scott, you need to be quieter than you normally are. So I'm trying to be quiet. Now Bradley's like, you need to be louder.
I think he needs to be. Well, he doesn't have that oomph in his voice that he normally has. So
right.
You just need to go ahead and kick it up a notch and ruin everybody else's day working here.
Okay.
Like
well,
that guy in that conference room is screaming.
Guys, I can flat do that. Now, we may have some really freaking pissed off workspace people over here, but
it's okay.
I can show enough do it. But Ben, how are you doing this morning, brother?
Man, I'm great. It's a balmy 8 degrees up here in beautiful Valparaiso, Indiana.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I woke up this morning, and it was like 55 degrees, and I was so excited I could put my beanie on. So
yeah, Bradley looks like he ought to be working in Silicon Valley at some kind of like internet startup company, like a tech company out there right now. He looks really cool.
I have a hoodie shirt on. And I have a beanie on.
Hey, Ben, before we get started, I want to tell you again, I said it off air, I probably said it on air, blessed and humbled that you'd be on this podcast today.
And man, it's so exciting what you guys are doing. We are grateful. All of our people are grateful what you guys are doing for everyone around the United States that are in this industry. Just keep it up, all right? Don't stop.
You have no idea what that means to us.
And Ben, you know, when Ryan Hanley singles out an agent and says, this guy's doing something cool on the podcast with us, you know, Scott and I when we did the second podcast with Ryan Hanley, if you guys would listen to that episode, it's a little bit less like the Insurance Guys podcast and a little bit more like the Joe Rogan podcast, because Scott and I had about an hour and a half break between podcasts. And my favorite bar/restaurant in the world is about 300 yards from where we record, Callahan's Irish Social Club. And we went and had about 2 or 3 beers between podcasts. So we got back and had Ryan Hanley on and just had a jolly time. The only thing I remember from that episode is Ben Zimmer's name, because I wrote it down.
Yep.
As soon as he said it, I'm like, okay, we got to get this guy on the podcast, because it's always good to find out about agents who are doing extremely cool things like you're doing and not necessarily publicizing it. So that's kind of what we wanted to do today.
Absolutely. Hey, Ben, before we get started on this podcast, I want you to do me a favor, okay? I want you to climb in the passenger seat of my DeLorean with me. We're going to go on a little time travel for just a moment. I want you to take our listening audience, the 250,000 insurance agents listening around the world, including our agent in Pakistan that reached out to us not long ago.
Literally.
I want you to get in my DeLorean, and I want you to go back in time, and I want you to tell everybody the story of how Ben got started in the insurance industry, and just take us up to today.
All right. Well, thank you. So in 2002, I was ending college, bartending, mowing greens at a golf course, and just kind of, getting ready to graduate. Met a manager at Farm Bureau Insurance named John Harazi, who I always admired just because he was a good golfer, athletic dude, great attitude, always happy. And I'm like, you know what? He's a really good person. And John came up to me when I was bartending one day and said, hey, what do you think about getting in the insurance business? I said, I don't think about getting in the insurance business, because we had that kind of relationship. And he goes, you know what, come check it out. Come see our office. Let's talk about it some more. And I said, okay. So I came up to their office in Valparaiso, 22 years old. I didn't know if I had car insurance or not. I didn't know. My folks took care of it. And I started meeting people, and he was talking about the different walks of life that I could meet. And I was like, this is a situation where I could meet the guy in the trailer park to the executive of a $20 million company. And that just was so enticing to me, because of essentially I come from teachers, and I didn't want to be a teacher, but I wanted to educate people.
Right.
So it was just a really good fit there. And that's how I got started in the business, and embrace the fact that we're all different, but everyone needs what we have, and in some capacity. And it was just fun connecting with people. And that's a word that I'm going to use a lot. It's connecting with people, connecting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So talk to us. Let's help our 250,000 agents out there, some of whom have some employees, some have one employee, some have 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 employees. Talk to us a little bit. I think your expertise and what you're known for is managing employees, thinking outside the box. Tell us a little bit about
your philosophy. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Your philosophy
and how you got to that point.
Okay. So what's interesting is I was considering making the transition from being an agent at an independent agency that I spent 5 years at to being a principal. And I was like, I know what I want, what my agency looks like, and I know what the people in this agency feel when they come to work with us, but I don't know how to say it. So I reached out to a guy. I was actually in a coffee shop with one of my clients. They own a pizza place, and they're really good at marketing this, and they're just a phenomenal group of people. And I go, I need to talk to somebody about figuring out who I am so I can kind of convey this in a business model. And then turn around, there's like, hey, there's a guy behind you, John Scott. And John Scott is a marketing guy and had experience working in Chicago. And I go, hey, John, I'm Ben. So I just turned around in a coffee shop and started talking to this guy.
That's a Scott Howell move. I did that this morning, and it changed my life. But go ahead.
So I'm like, okay, let's set up an appointment. So we meet for 2 coffees, or a coffee one time. We start talking about my vibe and kind of what I want to feel with the employees and what I want my employees to know they're a part of. And so we did 2 coffee meetings, and we wrote down a bunch of stuff, and he asked me all these questions. And then I went to his house and actually had a bourbon. And that was a different meeting. He wrote down stuff. And what happened was he opened up like a side of me where we did all these kind of words that described the kind of people we want working with us and essentially the kind of vibe we wanted to have in our agency. And I said, the problem is you can't find a lot of people like this in one town. So that's where everything just shifted to be like, okay, I was a part of Farm Bureau. We took all these trips with people all over the state of Indiana that were essentially rock stars of what we do. They already had experience. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm going to tap into that market of my network. And I'm part of the Big I, which I would encourage anybody that's newer to get involved in emerging leaders or young agents or whatever, because you meet some awesome resources like that. So that's kind of where I started to think about how I wanted my environment or our culture here to be. But I said, I knew that you can't just do it, and you can't have, there aren't that many super talented, experienced insurance representatives that have this attitude. So I realized I got to go essentially national to find these people that make a first impression, people that are understanding when clients have problems. And it takes a lot of homework on our end to know if people are a good fit, but everyone's a part of that, because it's not clients first. It's our people first.
Right.
Clients can be replaced. Unfortunately, people can't be, if they're part of our culture, they're feeling what we feel, people aren't going to leave. They like what we're doing here. So,
well, you put your people first, and your people are going to make sure your clients are taken care of. Don't you agree?
Absolutely.
So tell us some of the strategies that you use with your employees and the people that work. I shouldn't say employees. I should say team members. What strategies do you use in terms of, let's just start with hiring. What are some of the strategies used in hiring people to make sure that you've got the right fit? You're putting the right people on the bus.
So everyone that joins our organization, because we're newer, I ask everyone to say, are you willing to make a sacrifice for something? Everyone knows, you guys know this, you made a sacrifice with your time when you put this podcast together. You could be out selling, you could be out seeing people, you could be doing development with your organization, but you understand this is what your life's work is, and you understand this is what's going to make you essentially feel like at the end of the day complete.
Yeah, legacy. It's legacy.
It's all legacy. And so when I meet with people and I say, look, I want you to know that we are going to make some sacrifices together. And together, what that's going to create is a level of trust and a level of spirit and flexibility and support that you'll never see again in another agency. And people are like, okay, that's a pretty big promise. But essentially, how we back it up is every single person gets a chance to talk to and meet every other person. On the phone, we do it. We want everyone to be close, and we want everyone to trust each other. I did what was called a very webby Christmas this year. So our Christmas was a webinar where we all we just did a Loom, or we just saw each other, had drinks on the computer, together. But really what ties it together was we are the spirit of our trust, and is how we hire people, because I lay it all out there. I'm an emotional person. I'm a very passionate person. And the most important thing is that you identify that we're here for each other first, and then we'll do a great job supporting our clients because of that.
During the hiring process, are you utilizing someone like a Laura Bruno out in California to help you with your behavioral test and things like that to see how these people fit in your culture, or how are you doing that?
Okay, so here's my true hack.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we like. So
Hold on.
That's what we like on this show, are hacks.
Everybody stop. Agents from around the world, write this shit down. He is about to spit gold. Get ready.
All right. So what's happened is I plucked my wife, who is a human resource manager at a hospital, who can do handbook review, who's a hiring expert, who's a firing expert, who's essentially an HR aficionado. Okay. So I brought her on, I showed her the culture, and I said, teach me how to hire people, but keep this at the front of what we're doing. And so she's put together a hiring procedure, handbook, all that stuff. And what ended up happening when we were doing this exercise to create an environment to hire the right people, we said, well, we should do this for our clients too. So now we're leading with that. How do you hire rock stars? How do you do this the right way? And the truth behind it all is, if you're an agency principal and you know someone in human resources, or you know someone, it doesn't have to be in our industry at all. Tell them what you want your agency to look like. Tell them what you feel is the most important values, and have them help you put together a hiring technique so that you don't have to recreate the wheel every time you talk to someone.
Exactly. So let me tell you what I've started doing. I do a couple of things. I have come to realize, especially in the past year, how important it is to hire great people. I have started, send me your resume. I don't want a cover letter. I want a 1 to 2 paragraph email to me, to Scott. And by the way, agents, write this shit down. I want a 1 to 2 paragraph explanation as to why you want to come to work for our agency. That's the first thing I do. Then we get to know each other over dinner. Through the process, if I figure out that this is somebody that I think is somebody that fits well in our organization, I get a lady, and we're going to have her on the podcast soon. Her name is Laura Bruno out in California. She can do a behavioral disc test along with a sales aptitude test. Now, those tests aren't cheap. They're, $300-400, and people go, oh my gosh, $300 or $400. Well, folks, let me explain something to you. Go on out there today and go hire the wrong person. Spend about 30 hours training them up. Let them stay there about 6 months. Run half your clients off. Pay them $10,000 or $12,000 and see how that all works out for you. Okay? So I'm telling you, best money you've ever spent is letting people like Laura and in your case, your wife, develop this handbook and making sure you're hiring great people, because it will make or break your organization. The funny thing I have found is when you go to all these big agency offices, the Chris Paradisos, the Mike Stromsos, the JAG Insurance Group out of Miami, when you go to these large agency offices, you know what you always see? You see rock stars. You see rock stars. And when you go to the one guy shop down in Red Bay, Alabama, that's sitting there by himself with one person, you get bitchy, snippy, snappy. So I'm just telling you, if you're gonna have a bigger agency and you're gonna grow, you're gonna have to hire great people. So tell us some stuff. So we've hired somebody, we've brought them in. Give us that first week. I love hearing people's first week out of the box. What are you doing with them?
Okay, so depending upon the position, like from a CSA position, it's a lot of obviously phone time, depending upon if they're in town or if they're remote. So I do a lot of remote hiring too. So from a CSA position, what we'll do is, by this time we'll know kind of what they're versed in, their familiarity with some of the carriers we work with, some tendencies with the kind of folks we like to write. But also I want them to reach out to our existing clients, and I want them to introduce themselves to our clients.
Love it.
That's a big part of what we're doing. And that is, hey, I'm super fired up to be here. Ben says that you guys have been in business for 25 years. And it's a family business or whatever, just super fired up to be here. And we can't wait to serve you guys. So that's kind of what we're doing with the new person the first couple of weeks. Also, what we're trying to do is I will throw some situations where this is where I've been like log jammed in the past in the process, whether it's a service issue or a sales issue. And we'll kind of talk through those tough situations with them. From a producer standpoint, and we haven't touched on this really. Do you mind if I go into that a little bit?
Yeah, go right ahead, please.
I think what defines us as a producer from a producer standpoint is I don't want to hire anyone who doesn't want to own an agency.
Okay.
If you don't want to own an agency, I don't want to hire you.
He's spitting gold. He's spitting gold right now, people.
My plan for anyone that comes and joins us is I want you to blow the doors off. We're going to pay you the highest level of commission on the street, and we're going to give you an option to buy out after 5 years if you want to.
Say that again.
I'm going to give you the highest level of commission on the street, and we're going to give you the option to buy out after 5 years if you think you can do it better. So that's essentially what I hope to create is a culture that people don't want to leave. But ultimately, if you're going to get the best, you got to offer the best compensation. And essentially what that's done is it hasn't limited us to the geography of our Northwest Indiana or even the Midwest, because there are so many producers out there working for agencies that really will not have a future, but maybe kind of telling themselves, oh, if I just hang on. Well, if the conversation's not there up front, or the conversation's not talked about in your reviews about what the next step is for you, because if we're not growing, we're dying. We know that in this business. So whether that's growing personally and professionally and being supported by your agency principal, or whether that's a designation, or whether that's, hey, in 5 or 6 or 7 years, I want to be a principal.
Right.
This business is only fun if you're growing, honestly.
Right. Wouldn't you rather have somebody awesome for 2 years than have somebody average for 8?
I would love to high-five the best people out of here if it's a better opportunity for them. I can't fault them.
Right.
Cannot fault them. And, it's easy for me to say when all my employees are happy right now, but it's truthful. If someone has a better opportunity than what I can offer them, then do it.
Right.
But just make sure you're supported. And when you walk in the door every day, you feel the way you feel when you work around the people that I've been so blessed to be around.
Absolutely.
Because these people are awesome.
Absolutely. Ben, you know what I've always said about State Farm? And I know we've got a lot of State Farm agents that listen to this. Maybe
this will have to be a bleep.
No. One thing I've always said about State Farm is this. I was an associate agent with State Farm. I've been a principal agent with Nationwide. I've always said this. I said, the thing about State Farm is this. It seems like the people that are kind of meant to be a team member with State Farm don't make real good agency owners. And the people that need to be agency owners, that come in that are the rock stars that really need to have their own agency, don't make very good team members. Because
that's the case anywhere, man.
Right. Yeah, right. Because and it kind of goes to what Ben's saying right now is like, I think it's brilliant to only hire people that want to have their own agency one day because
the thing is, I mean, if you hire somebody, I just hired a person the other day, and before I even talked about the job, it's what's your goals, what's your why, and the person's why wasn't their goal wasn't to own an agency, but it was to do something great with their life, and I was like, well, look, if you come in here and you bust your butt and not only will this be a great opportunity for you to use some of the money you make here to go do that, but I'll be the one helping you, and I'll be the one pushing you out the door to go do that.
Right.
And I think that if you're hiring someone who is just they're just coming there for a job to get paid, that's not going to be good for anybody, including them. Don't you agree, Ben?
Absolutely. And, there has to be a goal. I have production goals for, so it's a combination of a production goal and a year that we set together. And essentially what happens is after that year and that production goal are met, I actually give equity in their book of business to them to make it easier for them to buy it.
That's awesome.
And it has to be that way because man, have you seen somebody that's been supported and loved and coached and just given the opportunity? They're going to outperform every single other person that has been given like a challenge but no help, and I feel like it's just awesome to see people do this because I'm sorry, as long as I'm a principal, I will never be an account manager. I will be a producer until I die and a coach until I die. Right. I will never, the moment I become an account manager, just kick me out of here because I'm no good at that stuff.
Yeah. So, hey, Ben, say that one more time. When you talked about production goals just a second ago, say that one more time. I want to write that down.
So what I do when I bring on a producer is we have a goal. It's going to be in 5 years, an X amount of P&C volume. I'm going to give you equity in your book of business to buy out.
Okay.
But you have to meet both of those goals. And if it takes an extra year and you still want to buy out, that's fine.
Right.
If you decide after 5 years, hey, Ben, I want this to look different. Okay, well, if you're a rock star, we're going to give you even more opportunity than I'm talking about right now.
Right.
But we have to have those goals. Those short-term goals are yearly. We have production goals, and it's the way it has to be.
Right. So what do you do? And I hate to cut this podcast short. We're kind of up against a hard deadline here, but I do have one more question. What do you do? And I'm facing this in my office right now. When you have someone that is in more of a what I call CSR type role. They sell a little bit, but they also service a lot of business for me, and they want to go strictly sales, but you don't feel like they have that sales acumen to be super duper, ooper duper, super successful, and you're kind of faced with, if you move them over there so that they're happy that they're on the sales side, but you're about 90% sure they're not going to make it on that side. But that's where they feel like they need to be happy and be, the person that they need to be. But, the flip side to that coin is if I do that, I've got to bring someone in to take their place. And so you can't go back because now I've hired somebody to do what you're doing now. So what would you do in that particular instance? What would you do in that scenario?
What I would look at too is saying, I'm straight up with our growth numbers with our agency, with everyone in the agency. We've grown this percentage in the last 3 months. We've done this. So what I would do is an honest conversation that says, hey, look, we've grown 20%. If you think you're ready, I'm going to give you 3 month or 6 month window, whatever that goal is, to meet certain production goals. Now, take in mind, you have to justify hiring that other service person, and you say, look, I think it's a good time, or I don't think it's a good time for you to make this change within the organization. But I know this is what you want, and I acknowledge this is what you want. it's not deferring them or not pushing them aside in their dreams, because you never want to hold anybody back. But at the same time, it has to be truly transparent within the agency that it makes total sense for everybody. It has to be win-win, or else it just doesn't work.
Right.
You know, I mean,
right. I agree
does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, and I agree with that. So Ben, I wish I could spend another 3 hours with you. I have so many other questions. I'd love to have him back on the podcast sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sorry we have to cut this short, but thank you so much for being with us today. It means a lot to Bradley and I that you would both be here. I'm going to go ahead and shut this thing down. Guys, listen, your agency is only going to grow and be as good as the people you hire. You know, Mike Stromso says, don't hire the best available, go hire the best. And I think that whoever you hire, whoever your team members are, what their abilities are, is going to be the deciding factor in how much you grow and where that agency ends up growing. Because I can promise you, I've had this conversation with 3 people this week. You can't do it yourself. You can't do it yourself. You only have so much capacity. So get your ass out behind that desk today. Go out into the big bad world and go sell insurance. Make money for your family. Make money to support your children. Write good business for the agencies that you represent, and write good business for the companies that you represent. Bradley Flowers, I love you.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey,
Thanks,
guys,
Ben.
Guys, you are listening to the Insurance Guys podcast, and we'll be back real soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Insurance Guys podcast. If you need to know more about me or you need to get in touch with Scott, you can always reach me at theinsuranceguyonline.com or email me at iprotectins@gmail.com. And if you need to get in touch with Mr. Bradley Flowers, go to bradleyflowersinsurance.com or email him at bradley@saralandinsurance.com. Guys, we love you. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to being with you again real soon on the next episode of The Insurance Guys. Take care.